We have a warrant for Shanice Gordon. We have reason to believe she's employed at this firm.
I don't care what warrant you have. You're not approaching any of my associates without a judicial warrant and proper authorization.
We're federal agents. Step aside or we'll charge you with obstruction.
Actually, you need proper legal authority. This is a private workplace. We have employee privacy laws, firm protocols, and...
The standoff kicked off at 3:15 p.m. on a gray, rain-soaked spring afternoon in the Minneapolis offices of Ellison and Associates. What started as 3 masked ICE agents barging in, demanding to see a senior associate, turned into something no one in that building would ever forget. An entire floor of legal professionals coming together shoulder to shoulder, forming a human barrier to protect their colleague. Security cameras caught the whole thing. Within hours, the footage was everywhere, on social media, the news, sparking national outrage and fueling a federal lawsuit that would eventually see Shanice Gordon awarded $13.7 million. It pulled back the curtain on just how dangerous it can get when immigration enforcement collides with professional workplaces. If you're ready to see what happens when institutional racism gets knocked down, go ahead and hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Let's get this story out there. And if you're new here, subscribe now because you don't want to miss tomorrow's video. Another wild story about cops messing with the wrong person and getting more than they bargained for. Now, let's talk about Shanice Gordon. At 32, she was a senior associate who'd been with Ellison and Associates for 7 years. Jamaican-American, born in Kingston, she came to the U.S. at just 6 years old when her family fled economic turmoil. She grew up in Minneapolis public schools, worked late nights in a grocery store to help her family, put herself through college on scholarships, and then carved out a career in law. Her clients? Often people who reminded her of herself when she was younger, overlooked, underestimated, just needing someone to believe in them. Shanice was the real deal. She was the one other associates turned to for help with the toughest cases, the attorney who could untangle the most convoluted contract disputes and somehow get everyone to the table for a settlement. She always stayed late to help junior clerks, never making anyone feel bad for needing advice. Her legal briefs were airtight, her courtroom arguments absolutely razor sharp. Clients who won their cases because of her never forgot her name, sending more people her way years later. But as outstanding as her work was, something didn't add up. Her performance reviews were glowing behind closed doors. But when it came to partnership talks, she was invisible. Yet her innovative legal strategies would get discussed in meetings, but the credit always landed on a senior partner's lap. Every time she put in for lead counsel, she'd be passed over, always for some vague reason, always in favor of someone less experienced. She'd been denied partner track twice, both times for associates with thinner resumes. She was a U.S. citizen, naturalized at 21, all her documents filed safe at home. She voted in every election, paid her taxes, even served on the Minnesota State Bar Association's pro bono committee, which involves a super strict background check. There was absolutely nothing questionable about her status. She was American in every way. But on that rainy afternoon, all that didn't matter. It started with a commotion in the lobby. 3 figures in black tactical vests and masks pushed through the glass doors, rain dripping off their shoulders, boots echoing on the marble. They strode right past the front desk, ignoring the receptionist as she stood up, her hand hovering over the phone. The lead agent flashed a document, a folded administrative warrant, but didn't even slow down. His face was hidden behind the mask. The other 2 flanked him, their eyes scanning the halls like they were entering hostile territory. Every sound seemed amplified in those glass-walled offices. The thud of boots, the static from their radios, the rustle of gear. A clerk froze mid-step. Someone looked up from her desk, hands pausing on her keyboard. Another associate peeked out from a conference room, confusion all over his face. Yes, the receptionist called out, "Excuse me, you need to sign in." But they just kept moving. Up on the 8th floor, Shanice sat at her desk, looking out at the rain-blurred skyline buried in a stack of discovery documents. She was mid-highlight in a section on liability waivers when she heard the commotion, muffled but unmistakable. The voices, the footsteps, they sounded wrong. She froze, listening. Her mind flashed back, the cramped apartment in Kingston, sleeping beside her sister, the sound of traffic through the walls, her mom's rough hands, the scholarship letter that felt like a lifeline, those nights working grocery shifts, her law school acceptance, her citizenship ceremony where she swore her oath with everything in her. She blinked herself back to reality. The noise was right outside her door now. Down the hall, the managing partner, Elias Thompson, stepped out of a meeting, his face going from curious to alarmed as he saw the masked agents heading straight for Shanice's office. No appointment, no escort, no warning. He acted fast, stepping between them and her door, hand outstretched. "Gentlemen, I need you to stop right there." The lead agent didn't miss a beat. "We have a warrant for Shanice Gordon. Step aside." But Elias stood his ground. "You need a judicial warrant to access anyone in this firm. What you're holding is administrative. It doesn't give you the authority to disrupt our workplace." The agent shot back, "Step aside or we'll charge you with obstruction." By now, people were pouring into the hallway. Clerks, associates, a junior partner, already dialing the in-house counsel. No one said a word. Yeah, but everyone just moved, filling the hall shoulder to shoulder, silently forming a barricade. There was a paralegal from immigration, a tax attorney who'd barely spoken to Shanice, a first-year associate who remembered Shanice staying late to help her with an employment discrimination memo. The human shield grew, steady and unyielding. Inside, Shanice sat clutching the edge of her desk, white-knuckled. She could hear Elias outside, his voice steady, citing privacy laws and constitutional rights. She heard the agents radioing for backup, voices clipped and tense. Her heart hammered. The memories wouldn't stop. Her sister's funeral, the pain she'd locked away because there was always more work, the small, constant slights at the office, being mistaken for a paralegal. Yeah, watching her strategies presented by a partner who'd barely glanced at her work, always hearing not the right cultural fit when partnership talks came up. Now, hunted at her own firm. The standoff stretched. 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 5. The agents tried to push through, but the wall of staff held. No shoving, just people standing strong. Elias kept talking, cool as ever, quoting legal precedents. Someone called in-house counsel. Someone else started downloading the security camera feed. Rain battered the windows. The tension in that hallway was like static. 15 minutes in, the agent's radio crackled. Backup was coming. Obstruction charges were being prepped. Elias didn't budge, rattling off more case law. The human barrier pressed closer, a wall of suits and quiet resolve. Shanice was frozen behind her desk, shaking. And she had her papers, she had her passport, she'd voted in 4 elections, served on bar committees, done everything right. And still, here they were. At the 28-minute mark, 2 more firm attorneys arrived from court. They reviewed the warrant in seconds. "This is administrative," one said to the agents, voice cold and calm, "not judicial. You have no authority to conduct enforcement here without the property owner's consent. If you try, you'll be breaking the law and we'll pursue every legal remedy." The agents hesitated. Radio chatter ramped up. Their backup was stuck in traffic. At exactly 30 minutes, the lead agent stepped back. "This isn't over. We'll be back with the right authorization." They retreated toward the elevator, boots echoing down the hall, leaving a stunned silence. The barrier slowly melted as people exhaled. Like they'd all been holding their breath underwater. Elias turned, knocked gently on Shanice's glass door. She opened it, composed, but her hand still shook. "We've got you," he said quietly. "We're documenting everything. I'm bringing in an immigration specialist tonight. You're not alone." Around them, the firm sprang into action. Someone grabbed the security footage. Another drafted an incident report. A clerk brought Shanice water. The junior partner sent out a firm-wide email about solidarity and support. But under it all, heavy, unspoken questions lingered. an anonymous tip, a faulty database, a naturalized citizen targeted in her own office. Outside, rain kept falling, washing the city clean while everything inside felt permanently changed. 6 hours later, the footage leaked. A third-year associate still shaken. Yes, uploaded the security video to Twitter when your law firm becomes a human shield. 19 minutes of raw confrontation, condensed from the full half hour, ICE pushing in, Elias standing firm, the hallway filling, the standoff, the retreat. Within 2 hours, the tweet had 40,000 shares. By morning, it had passed 1 million. News outlets jumped on it. Legal Twitter exploded. Immigration advocates amplified it. Headlines screamed. Lawyers form human barrier against ICE. Viral video shows workplace immigration enforcement. The outrage was instant and massive. But Shanice, she didn't see any of it. She went home, locked her door, and collapsed, finally letting herself feel the grief she'd bottled up since the day she identified her sister's body after the car accident. She called Elias the next morning and asked for leave. And he granted it, immediately assigning a top immigration attorney to her case. The first week was a blur. Her apartment was too quiet. She couldn't sleep. When she did, she dreamed of her sister, always bright, always teasing, and then always gone. In the second week, her attorney, David Rosen, arrived with a thick folder. Here's what he told her. The ICE database had flagged a record for someone named Shanice Elise Gordon, born in Kingston, entered the U.S. as a child. Everything matched except for one thing. The flagged record was for her sister, who had died 3 years earlier. ICE had never verified the death certificate, never checked biometric data, never confirmed if the person in their system was even alive. They just saw a name match and sent agents. Rosen's voice was steady. This isn't a one-off, it's a pattern. ICE's databases are decades out of date. They don't talk to vital records. They don't update with new citizenships. No multi-point verification before enforcement. And the people hurt most? The ones with certain names, certain backgrounds. Outside, the backlash grew. Legal groups organized rallies. Op-eds hit major papers, questioning if offices should ever be turned into enforcement zones. Social media debates raged. Advocacy groups called for ICE reform. The footage kept circulating, every share adding more pressure. At the firm, something changed. People started talking about Shanice, not just the raid, but her work. A junior partner brought up a contract dispute Shanice had resolved that was about to spiral into litigation before she found a hidden clause and ended it. An associate remembered how, in an employment discrimination case, Shanice's research was so airtight the defense folded. A clerk recalled her rewriting an entire motion the night before a filing, saving a client from losing by default. Quietly, emails circulated, memos praised her work, her name finally attached to the wins she'd earned for years. 3 weeks into her leave, Rosen returned, this time with a bombshell. As they prepared the lawsuit, he uncovered immigration records that didn't line up, a witness protection file buried deep in Jamaican archives. The impossible truth? Shanice's sister hadn't died in a car crash. She'd faked her death, staged the accident, and entered witness protection after exposing corruption tied to major Jamaican politicians. Her funeral had been a cover. Even worse, or her father, who died when Shanice was 4, was also a whistleblower, targeted for exposing financial crimes in the same network. The family's entire history was one of resistance, and Shanice was now at the center of a much bigger story. The ICE database flag wasn't just carelessness, it was a vendetta. Rosen laid it out: birth certificates, sealed court files, testimony, evidence of a decades-long conspiracy. Shanice's world spun. The grief stayed, but beneath it something else grew. Resolve. Her sister fought. Her father fought. Now it was her turn. She authorized the federal lawsuit, Fourth Amendment violations, Fifth Amendment due process, 14th Amendment equal protection. Rosen built a litigation team. Discovery started. ICE internal emails surfaced. Damning. Dog casual. We don't have time for multi-point verification on every match. Process them. Let the courts sort it out. It was clear. Shortcuts, laziness, indifference, especially when the names were foreign. While Rosen built the case, Shanice dug into family documents, letters from her father, legal briefs her sister wrote before vanishing, proof connecting corruption across 2 countries, 3 decades. This wasn't just a database mistake, it was power used against anyone who dared to expose it. The viral momentum didn't stop. News cycles stayed hot. Legal scholars wrote think pieces. Advocates pointed to the footage as proof of systemic failure. Ellison and Associates became a symbol. Proof that a workplace can be a sanctuary when people choose solidarity over compliance. Shanice, meanwhile, prepared for the fight. 8 months later, the trial began. Federal court in Minneapolis, gallery packed to the rafters. Journalists, advocates, law students in overflow rooms. Everyone could sense this was bigger than one person's lawsuit. The full 30 minutes of security footage played on day 1, showing every second. ICE pushing through the lobby, Elias stepping in, the hall filling, the standoff, the firm's quiet stand. Jurors leaned forward. One wiped away tears. Testimony followed. Staff described the instant they decided to form the barrier. No one coordinated, but everyone understood. They spoke about Shanice, her mentorship, brilliance, and the way she bore being overlooked. A junior associate told of a trademark case where Shanice's strategy got presented by a partner who'd barely read her memo. A clerk remembered partnership discussions where her name was brushed off with not quite the right fit. Expert witnesses broke down ICE's failures, how a quick check could have revealed the truth, how the system disproportionately flagged certain ethnicities. Former ICE agents, visibly uncomfortable, admitted shortcuts were standard. Time pressure, not enough resources. So mistakes were pushed downstream to be sorted out in court. The emotional climax was Shanice on the stand. Navy suit, hands folded, voice trembling with grief. She recounted the fear, the humiliation of being targeted in her own workplace, even after a decade as a citizen, after doing everything right. Then quietly, she shared about her sister, the faked death, the witness protection, the conspiracy that haunted her family. The room was silent. Even the court reporter paused. The defense tried to argue good faith. Our agents acted on available info by the book. But the evidence was overwhelming. Death records, biometric data, basic checks that had been skipped. The jury deliberated 3 days. The verdict, unanimous. Liable on all counts. $4 million for emotional distress and lost career advancement. $9.7 million in punitive damages. $13.7 million total. The courtroom erupted. Advocates cheered. Reporters sprinted for the doors. Shanice sat, tears streaming, as Rosen squeezed her shoulder. Fallout came fast. The 3 ICE agents were fired, supervisors reassigned, new policy reforms announced, mandatory multi-point verification, database integration, new oversight on ethnic targeting. To many, the changes felt overdue and still not enough. But it was something. Ellison and Associates put up a plaque in the 8th floor hallway. In defense of dignity and justice, they used some of Shanice's settlement to start a legal aid clinic for immigrants. Applications flooded in. Shanice came back to work 3 months after the verdict. No fanfare, just respect. Her office was unchanged, but her role had shifted. Mentorship, input on hiring and partnership, invitations to speak at conferences about allyship, resilience, and breaking down institutional racism. The scars didn't vanish. The years of being overlooked, the pain over her sister remained, but now she had proof. Underestimated power can become reclaimed power, and a relentless pursuit of truth can shake systems built to ignore it. Other law firms took note. Law schools added the case to their curriculum. ICE stayed under scrutiny. Every new raid judged against what happened in Minneapolis. And Shanice, once the overlooked associate, became a symbol, not of victimhood, but of methodical, relentless justice that finally forced accountability. If you found this story powerful, go ahead and hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another one. Share this video with someone who'd appreciate it. Drop a comment below what part hit you hardest. Let's keep this conversation going. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.